everyone. I'm Jennifer Bellisson from Forrester Research. I'm excited to be here today with GSMA. And we hear a lot about the promise of AI, and everyone knows that data is required to power that artificial intelligence and deliver the insights that we're all looking for. But I often start presentations by telling people that their data is worth nothing. Now, obviously, that's very provocative, but what we know is, and what Thomas Edison has said, the value of an idea lies in the using of it. And what we're finding today is, although 85% of decision makers tell us that they want to be insights driven, 91% tell us that they have a very difficult time getting there. When we ask respondents in our surveys, what percentage of decisions are made based on quantitative information as opposed to gut or experience or opinion, it's less than 50%. Now, why is that? Because we know that becoming insights driven requires more than just technology, and we've been focusing on technology for a long time. It also requires data, but the people and processes behind that. To become effectively insights driven and derive value from advanced analytics and AI, we know that organizations must invest in those four pillars: the technology, the data, the people, and the processes. And data governance crosses all of them. So today we're going to talk about data governance. And we were asked a specific question for this panel, this fireside chat. How can an effective data governance strategy break down some of those hidden or siloed data sources across organizations? And how do they enable personalization at scale for consumers, increasing transparency and trust in the AI black box so that we can all benefit from AI? So I'm here today with Suzanne Wegner, and would like to talk a little bit about her perceptions on this question. And maybe, Suzanne, you can start by sharing your thoughts on the role of data governance in AI today.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I'm very happy, and thank you for GSMA for enabling this fire chat talk today. My thoughts there is that I have a presentation but probably in summer that says do your homework before you start with AI. So we really have to work on the basic, on the overall management, on the overall governance, because you see, if you look around, everyone is asking about the cases, and then they are very happy, and then they are looking down, and you cannot scale if you don't do it. And if you really want to get the benefit out of it, and I read today in the German Handelsblatt an article, a comment from someone who looked at Tesla, and there were these Japanese engineers who put all the pieces out of it. And it was very interesting because he wrote the basic for everything, and then it's not about the technology, it's more that putting together data and really getting the insight out of it. And for me, I just changed jobs. So in my former job and what I'm seeing right now in my new job, it's really, you can get the insight out of the data, but it's not the technology because you already have it, as you mentioned it. I always love the mixed teams like technology, data scientists, data engineers, and very essential is really the business insights in there.
Absolutely. I mean, I would agree with that. You know, we talk about these four pillars: the data, the technology, the people, and the processes. Now, I wanted to focus a little bit more on this question of personalization and what people are, as an example of what people are doing with the data. And so that seems to be really the holy grail for companies who want to better engage their customer, improve that customer experience, deepening their relationships, and ideally for many, that share of wallet. But so what do you see as some of the challenges companies face in dealing with all of the data that they have, and the consumer data that they've collected?
So one thing is the silos, that there are in different business units, and if you really want to have a 360 customer view, then you really need to connect the data. And there are sometimes really different kind of business owners. Then you have to take care how to model the data. So the data modeling is very essential, because if you have different kind of data models, I don't mean the analytical models, really the data models, then it takes you very long to really putting everything in the right place to start really working on the analytics. That's very essential for me. And then you really need to be very sure that the data quality is very high, because if you don't have a high data quality, it always said like shit in, shit out. So you have to really ensure with a governance who is responsible, how do we are fitting the systems with data, that we have really the qualified data. That are the essential things for me.
Absolutely. So it sounds like we need, within those silos or across those silos, we need a common data model so that everyone's talking in the same terms.
Yeah,
right.
That would help, because sometimes you have it, but I'm working in a huge company. It's not a startup, so we have legacy systems that there for a long time, and 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you never really thought about that. Some people, but in general not, and that's the reason why you have to think a little bit about this data model.
And obviously, you also said data quality is very important as well. And we've talked about how consumers desire more transparency in where their data is and how it's being used, and the quality. Everyone's concerned about the quality of data as well, including privacy. So, and when decision makers want to use that data, they are concerned obviously about the data quality, and knowing that they can legally use the data, so there's concern about data privacy as well. How can companies best address all of those challenges? I mean, it seems massive. And so, in particular, which measures can be put in place to protect that consumer data and the privacy, reassuring the consumers, but also allowing the decision makers to actually do something with the data?
Yeah, there are different approaches, and in Europe we have the GDPR, so we have a relatively strong regulation, but there are approaches like, for example, the differential anonymization approach, where you can guarantee some anonymization, but you still have the possibility to really work with the data. That's one thing. The other thing I'm always a fan of, and that's in my my former job, really, it's very essential to have the trust of the customer. When I started to work with this data, and we thought, okay, we're doing the anonymization and everything is fine, but things are changing and the mindsets are changing. And it's, for me, very, very essential to have transparency to your customers. What kind of data do you have? How are you using the data? And then in the back office, you really have to take care about the anonymization and to work on that kind of anonymization. And then you can use it. And as we all know, we have the expert to really work on the security and on the anonymization.
Right. And the European Parliament is working on AI regulations, like AI guidelines as we speak. What do you think that companies should expect in terms of those, new regulatory guidelines and how they need to treat data?
Yeah.
Is that something that they can prepare for?
So what I'm always a fan of is really like think of yourself and think about what your customer want to have, because that's what will come into the regulation, and really start with the implementation. And if you look at the current papers, there are a lot of cases where you really can start and really working on it. And then you always have to think and to think about what are the ethics, what are the guidelines, and very interesting, like the Bosch chief digital officer announced the ethical guidelines of Bosch last week. So that's very, very interesting to see that most of the companies who are dealing with the topic already implementing that. And it's not that we say, okay, give everything to the machines, but really look at that, look at the guidelines that are already there. And my opinion is technology will change and will develop very quickly, and we really should look at it from a human side, from a human perspective. And then you're right, I cannot like tell what really will come, but I believe that's currently the opinion. You're reading, if you're talking to experts, or if you see the papers.
You said a couple things that I picked up on. The first one, I love that, just remember we're all human, and you said put yourself in the shoes of the customer. Think of yourself as how you would feel about your data being treated, and put yourself in the shoes of the customer. And then the other piece was, not everything is forbidden, but as you do, as you implement your policies, your use of the data, keep that guidance in mind, and make sure that you're not, at the end of the day, looking back at how you've done things and trying to apply that guidance, but doing it in real time as you're implementing these different use cases and the different uses of the data. And that the way I see it as well is that these are guidelines. It's not a blanket restriction, but it's ways in which we can use this data ethically, and really just keeping people in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And my personal opinion is we are then more neutral than we have sometimes if we have a really human decision, because then you have probably one person, and if you do it right, you sometimes have it a little bit more neutral than in other situations. I see it always, you have to be a little bit careful, but I see additionally a great chance there.
Absolutely. It's a challenge, but there's also massive opportunity along with it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. This was great. I really enjoyed getting your perspective.
Thank you, Jennifer.